What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Honor the Land, Monday, October 7th, after probably the worst loss we've seen in a while, the most demoralizing loss we've seen in a while, 34-13 at Washington. The Commanders handed it to the Browns, gave it to the Browns. It was pretty bad. I don't really know where to start. I think this episode, we're just going to try to put together some type of brainstorm with potentially fixing this team to win a game in the next month. I think that's the goal here. So, with that in mind, Zay, what the hell do you do moving forward?
It's the move nobody wants to talk about. We're just in such a weird situation, bro. Like, you can't do one thing without the other, and the other can't happen until it happens. And unfortunately, you're not benching Deshaun Watson. They stamped. Not only did they stamp it, they shut the door so damn hard on it, they nailed it in the coffin. We're not changing quarterbacks. And usually when they leave the door open for stuff like that, they usually context it differently. Oh, we won't get into that. That'll be discussions behind closed doors or something. Like, they word it differently. He straight up said,
No.
we're not benching with Watson. So that's out the window. So now the only thing that you can look to is you can't fire Stefanski until you fire Dorsey. And you can't fire Dorsey until it's his offense. Like, until he's literally the one calling it. So, like, you can't do all these moves until Kevin Stefanski says, okay, I'm no longer have anything to do with the offense. This is strictly Dorsey. And then we see that mess up. Then you can can him. And then you can go to Watson and be like, okay, so now let's run Watson with Stefanski's offense. And then if that doesn't work, I think benching Watson would be the next logical thing. And then after that, you see if it is Stefanski's system, you bring in a new quarterback again, Winston or who DTR, and if he thrives, the experiment's over.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, Stefanski's done. So it's a chain of things that have to happen. And I think it starts with giving Dorsey the offense.
I agree with you. Dorsey's got to start calling plays because you look at what the Browns did and bring him in this offseason. There's like legitimately no point. Like what was the point of that? And you let Van Pelt go, which, I mean, to each their own with that. He had good days, bad days in Cleveland, calling whatever. It was a move that I felt needed to be made. You bring Dorsey in, and it's his offensive system, I guess, his scheme, but he's not calling plays. You have that going for you. Watson looks good one week, looks horrible another week. You have that you got to figure out. You got the whole Stefanski situation you got to figure out. There's too much muddiness in terms of what really is wrong. There's a lot that's wrong, but you can't figure out what the biggest issue is, and that's my thing. Like, I heard it on Sunday Night Countdown or the Sunday Night Halftime Show last night, whatever it was. They brought up a really good point. I think it was Jason Garrett actually brought it up. There is no way you can look at the film, especially from week 5, and say right now Deshaun Watson gives you the best chance to win. And I know they closed the door. I know they said this is our quarterback. We're not making a change. But who are you trying to appease? Who are you trying to impress here? Are you trying to make right on the contract and the trade? Like, there's zero chance you look at that and say Deshaun Watson gives us the best chance to win. It's insane to think, especially after the Raiders game when he looked really good. There's just no way you look at Sunday's film and say he gives us the best chance to win. There's no way.
It makes it even worse when you're flipping the channel and seeing every other quarterback go out there. I mean, granted, Joe Burrow lost, but he had 5 touchdowns, 300 and something yards on 30 or 35. Yeah. Granted, Joe Flacco lost. He had 350 yards and 3 touchdowns and no picks. Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, every channel you go to, they're out making plays. And it's just frustrating. Jaden Daniels, right in front of us, is making plays that it's like, what the heck is going on? So, yeah, you can't turn on that film and be satisfied. That's why I think it's like, as much as we don't want it to happen, I almost want Haslam to come down and say, hey, we need something to alter. Yeah. Something has to change because at the end of the day, this was his guy. He wanted Watson. He was comfortable giving the $230 million. So, I mean, if you're not going to let Stefanski fix it, if you're not going to let Barry fix it, if you're not going to let any of these guys fix it, you need to come down and say, hey, it's time. 1-4 is unacceptable.
Yeah, 1-4 is, like you said it before we even started the podcast. Like, if you would have told us we would be 1-4 going into Philly, like we really thought they would be 4-1 going into Philly week 6, which is just a crazy thing to think about now. But we would have lost a lot of bets. Nobody would have believed us. Like it's unreal the situation they have put themselves in. Unreal. And I think there's a lot that's wrong, and we'll talk about everything that's wrong. The offensive line has been really bad too, and it's I think actively getting worse, which is insane to think. People are getting banged up, and obviously Wyatt Teller's out, but the line is getting worse. Like DeJuan Jones looks like a shell of himself. I don't know what happened. My guess is it's the coaching change. Like that's probably the
He put
most
on
glaring
weight.
thing.
He put on
Put on
weight.
weight. Yeah. So a combination of those two, but then you get Jed out there, and you're like, okay, maybe with Hudson out, he provides some type of, I don't even know if you want to call it spark, but like consistency at left tackle. Not the
He's
case.
watching sacks happen.
Yeah, the interior has not been great. Really banged up, though, I will say. The interior is very banged up. Petonio's getting up there. The offensive line isn't doing them any favors either. And, the Amari Cooper to Deshaun Watson connection is literally non-existent. I tweeted out after the game, I think that was Amari Cooper's last game as a Brown. Like, I think they are going to trade him. I think they're going to trade him and trade him this week.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, as in terms of the offensive line, remember the one thing, I don't know if your comment section looks like mine, but a lot of people are saying that nobody wants to play for Watson. Well,
Yeah.
do you remember the conversation we had, and I showed you the clip and we pulled it up and
Yep.
we looked at it and we were like, well, it's not really time to do that yet. Is it time to have the questions yet? Because there's got to be some kind of merit. Granted, I know they're sending 50,000 blitzes. Stefanski's doing a terrible job putting in the right protection to even give an opportunity to draw back and make passes. There's a play I want you to look at that was disgusting. But I just don't understand, like, what went wrong? How did we go from this one thing one year to the next and overnight, Max?
It is overnight, yeah.
This isn't like, this wasn't a build up to this point. We woke up one day and we're like, oh my God, we're 10 feet tall. The wrong way. We're 10 feet wrong down in the ground right now, bro. How does that happen?
It's just, maybe we just didn't know how good we had it last year. I mean, I don't want to talk about the Flacco thing. Look, I get it. He's doing great in Indy. He had a good game yesterday. Yeah, let's just everybody take a deep breath of the Flacco stuff. I don't want to talk about that. But you think about it, like they had a guy, and I don't want to speak to how players view Deshaun Watson or what the locker room is like, but last year it was pretty clear to see you had a guy you galvanized around. Like, you liked playing with Joe Flacco. You fought for Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco fought for you, vice versa. Last year, that second half of the year, that was a team of fighters. That's what the Cleveland Browns were, especially offensively. And they were putting up points. Regardless of how you liked it or not, they were putting up points. Now, it doesn't seem like they want to fight for each other offensively. Defensively, it's weird because, like, you look at the box score and you see the 34 and you're like, oh, bad defensive performance. I don't think it's as bad as it suggested. JOK was unbelievable, very opportunistic, making plays too. The offense doesn't put him in good positions, but offensively, they don't fight for each other. There's absolutely no identity, and we talked about it last week. Nick Chubb kind of is the identity of the offense, but right now with Chubb out, like, you have to find something, and there is no identity.
What drives me crazy about it, though, is Myles Garrett is, like, I was talking about this on the live stream that I just had, and everyone that is quote unquote, on Deshaun Watson's payroll or Deshaun Watson bros, Myles Garrett saying the same thing in the media, and yet no one's batting an eye. If the players in the locker room are still going out of their way to, in public fight for Deshaun Watson, shouldn't that at the very least show us that there are still players in that locker room? That's why it's so hard for me to try to wrap it around my head, where is, how are there guys on the defense that are still bought into Deshaun? But you're not telling me that guys on the offense aren't bought into Deshaun? But Amari Cooper came out and said he doesn't think it's Deshaun Watson. He thinks he's playing hard. Like, he came out for him. You see Jerry Jeudy on the sideline. He seemed to be the only one next to Deshaun Watson 24/7 on the sideline. So it's obvious that he likes Deshaun. Why? What happened to the leadership? Where's the leadership at? Because right now, like, we're just blind dogs walking in the street.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it was a team that last year that a lot of the same players are back, and there was some some success last year. You make the playoffs when really all odds are stacked against you, and you think that that coupled with a little bit more of a veteran roster would yield some type of leadership or experience or some feeling of like, okay, we've been here before. We know how to operate in certain difficult situations. It just hasn't been the case. And I don't know. I don't know if it's Watson. I don't know if it's the coaching staff, the coaching change. I just, the Dorsey thing is weird to me. It's really, really weird. Like, you have an offensive coordinator that, number one, got fired midseason last year. Number two, the offense he got fired from got exponentially better after he was fired. And you bring him in, and whether it's play calling, schematic stuff, the familiarity with a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, you think he's going to help your offense. I don't know where, well, he's obviously not helping the offense, but I don't know what the role is right now. Like, he's not calling plays. Obviously, he implemented his scheme in the offseason. He's helping with the meetings and doing everything like that throughout the week and ultimately trying to give the Browns offense the best chance to succeed. And that can't be overlooked, whether it's working or not. He is obviously trying. I think it would be rude to say he wasn't. But where's the production? Like, you made this move in the offseason. You moved on from a moderately consistent offensive coordinator and said, hey, like, let's go get this guy. Let's try to elevate our offense. There has been no elevation. It's been the opposite of elevation.
Like, I don't know if you saw the clip. Quote, if Dorsey brought in all this new stuff, should he be the one calling the plays? Watson, that's a Kevin question. This is in the presser after the game. What? What do you mean? What do you mean it's a Kevin? He ain't telling us nothing. This whole experiment with Dorsey, it doesn't make sense. You're right, 100%. But at this point, I'm almost to the point where no matter if I believe in Deshaun Watson or not, are we almost at a point where it's best for this organization moving forward if they just cut ties with Deshaun and just end it all in one? Because we've never, ever, 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 as long as I've been alive, been more divided as a fan base. There's been so much tug of war between the media, the players, the fans, the players, because of this distractions, which is Deshaun and everything that came with it. How can you? It almost seems as if even if we did make it, let's just say we peel off and we go crazy and we make it to the playoffs, heaven forbid, and we make it to the AFC Championship and we come up short. It still wouldn't. Would it feel like success? Because I don't think fans would be even care. Like, I think they don't like Deshaun that much that no matter what happens, we could win the Super Bowl. It still would be tainted in some way, shape, or fashion. And is that good for us? Honestly.
Moving forward, I don't think so. Like, the talent that Deshaun Watson, and I think they thought this when they made the move for him, the talent that Deshaun Watson showed in Houston at times, like Deshaun Watson's best, is good enough to kind of push all that negative media attention, fan criticism, everything like that off to the side. But that play has to be so consistently good that the negative media stuff, fans going against each other, everybody's 2 cents on Deshaun Watson, the play has to be that good so that stuff doesn't even matter to Browns fans. So, like, let's say even if, the Browns are around 500, Watson's playing okay, like, he's not playing like Houston Deshaun Watson, and the Browns are, just above 500. Maybe they sneak in and get the last wild card spot. If that happens and the Watson play is not like up to this insane standard that we've held him to, people are going to be upset at him. There's no way around this. Like, the play has to be so consistently elite that stuff doesn't matter, and that's never going to happen. So you're right. It may be best to just move forward. I don't know what it would look like. I don't know if it's quarterback change now. I don't know if it's an offseason thing, but what you have with Deshaun Watson now, like, the play isn't good enough to push the other negative stuff to the side. Again, you can't really speak to what's going on in the locker room. Players are defending him too, so it's tough to see, but there's no consistent offensive identity. It doesn't look like there's a ton of fight from the offense. It's really difficult to see Deshaun Watson and how he's operating the offense and believe, again, like I said, that gives you the best chance to win, because I don't think it does.
Like, it's just it was such a breath of fresh air when Deshaun Watson came in, or when Joe Flacco came in last year, because it just, the energy that he carried, it's just, I understand from like if I put myself in Deshaun Watson's shoes, I understand why you would be defeated 24/7.
Yeah.
But he also does himself no service how he carries himself. He's always on defense. He's always deflecting questions and a victimizing way, not victimizing all the time, but he wears that sorrow or
Yes.
whatever that on his face and his body 24/7, and it's like it's literally seeping through the locker room. And I remember when players talked about it last year. I don't remember if it was D'Anthony Bell when I actually talked to him, or it was just an interview that we heard. But they talked about the energy that Joe Flacco brought on the sideline, and they never felt like they were out of it because when he
Mhm.
was over there, he was still talking to guys, trying to galvanize people. And if he made a mistake, he just said, "Hey, go get it back. I'll make up for it." When I sit every time you see Deshaun Watson, it's taking his helmet off, putting it on the side, sitting on the side. It's just like you got to see the care from your leader.
Mhm.
And we saw the care throughout last year, and unfortunately we aren't seeing it from the guy. And I understand it to a sense, but you can't do that when you're making all this money. You got to fake it till you make it at this point.
Yeah, agreed. And like I said, the play has to be so good that stuff. The I don't know how to describe it. You're right. It's like he's like holding the weight on his shoulders. Like his face drops down a little bit. Like you can see it, especially in the press conferences. I've noticed. Like it's just
Everyone.
yeah. Even if they win, it's the same like demeanor. Play's got to be so good that stuff doesn't matter. And the play has. I don't even know if there's been a game where it's been that good. I guess the second half of the Ravens game, maybe. That's last year though. Like we can't keep talking about that. Defensively for the Browns, I don't think it's right to just not talk about it. I think there are some areas of improvement. I mean, the offense doesn't put them in good situations and the defense is being opportunistic, but there's still holes in the secondary. Like I think teams are starting to realize we can throw on the Browns. We can throw on them. And last year they couldn't.
No. You can throw on Martin Emerson.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can't throw on Denzel. I don't know. That's what's crazy to me, bro. What happened to Emerson? Like, it would be different if there was stuff leading up to this, but there was never any concrete evidence to say that Martin Emerson would
Yeah.
get torched like this.
No.
This is there's something going on with that.
Yeah.
I'm not jumping off the Martin Emerson bandwagon yet, but yeah, you can throw on his way
Yep.
right now.
Yeah, and they're picking on him. And as like it's crazy, you're right. There was no concrete evidence last year for us to believe any of that outside of occasional penalties. Like he's an aggressive corner, which is again, it is fine. If you're on the other side of a borderline top 3, top 2 corner in the NFL, you got to be aggressive. You know he's going to eliminate a side. You're going to be targeted, and that's the reality. And when you're targeted like that, there's a lot less room for error. Last year, if the error was penalties, like you didn't give up big plays. If something bad happened, it was a flag. And you're like, okay, 5-yard defensive holding, fine. Just live to play another down. It's not a huge deal. I thought this year, watching first couple weeks was fine. Watching week 3 against Neighbors, I was like, okay, he just got outmatched. Like that's just some talent. And then you watch week 4, a lot of off man, like we talked about. Yeah, it's not really his game. And then you look at this past week, the Diami Brown touchdown, just like
He was just burnt. He
yeah,
literally didn't even do a move. He just ran past him.
yeah,
So I don't know. I'm not really too concerned about the defense. They've created turnovers back to back weeks, which is
yeah.
huge, which means they're giving the ball back to the offense, which is exactly what you want. They gave up towards the end of the game last year. I would have gave up last week. But they still haven't given up when it matters. Like every time they had an opportunity to give up, they haven't. And
Yep.
that's the thing that I'm holding on to because this team is built around this defense. If this team is going to turn around, it will be at the hands of the defense because the offense can't even move the ball. We had 38 total offensive yards in the first half. We had 4 rushes for 4 yards, Deontay Foreman, and we bashed on the table. We sat here. We're wrong. We were wrong about Deontay Foreman. There was a reason why he wasn't getting the carries because that 3rd and 1 play was when he got swipe tackled. When he really could have ran for first down and probably 10 more yards was just way past me. But I don't know, man. They got to figure this crap out. They got to figure it out fast because I tell you what, man, like we talked about a little bit earlier, we were looking at the schedule saying how we could, if we could beat the hottest team in the league, we can somehow string together 3 in a row. And now we're sitting here 4-4. Bro, I was looking at the schedule. We may not win till December 2nd.
Yep. Hmm.
Like the Broncos is the first realistic game where you can sit and be like, okay, maybe we get one. Eagles,
No.
okay, yeah. Bengals, we can't score over 20. They're putting up 30 the past 2 weeks. The Ravens look like they're about to win the Super Bowl this year. Am I
Yeah.
wrong?
No, they
The
look good.
Chargers, I mean, the Chargers always put up 40 points on us. Every time we freaking play them, it seems like they're scoring. And then you got the Steelers and then the Broncos at 8-15. Like, bro, it's tough sledding right now.
Yeah, it is. This is as bad as it gets. I got a couple friends texting me, and I wonder anybody who's listening, Zay, if you feel the same way. Maybe it was the expectations coming into this year, but this feels worse than the 0-16 season. Like multiple people text me that like out of the blue. Like, I get it. I don't think it's that bad, at least on paper. But the expectations like contribute emotionally to this. Like, we had like I think you asked every other person in the national media, would the Cleveland Browns make the playoffs, even as a wild card team? One would say yes, one would say no. Like there was a very clear consensus this team was good enough to do it. It's just a matter of if they did it or not. Now you ask anybody, this team's going to be picking top 5 in the draft next year. It's insane.
How
I also,
we care, bro. We
it's bad.
picked stuff, bro. But you know what pisses me off though, and I keep saying, and I'll continue to say it, bro. There were so many fans that were clamoring for this before the season even started. There were people making mock drafts week
Yeah.
1 preseason, bro.
Yep.
Like, and we spoke this crap into existence, man. So, man, I'm not even about to talk about it. Go ahead. My
Well, I
bad.
was just gonna say, looking at the game, the not doing the defense any favors thing. That's kind of been how I viewed the Browns defense. I think they've been good, obviously room for improvement, but the offense doesn't do it any favors. Anytime you force a 3-and-out or a turnover, essentially, in my opinion, they're virtually the same. Field position is different, but 3-and-out turnover, time-wise, very different. I'm going to read you what happened every Browns drive after a 3-and-out or turnover this past weekend.
I know.
Commanders, 3-and-out. Browns get the ball back, 3-and-out, -7 yards. Commanders throw a pick. Browns get the ball back, 3-and-out, 4 total yards. Commanders, 3-and-out when they're at their own 1-yard line. They punt the ball. The Browns go 10 yards in 6 plays and kick what, a 51-yard field goal.
Click click the what you call it on that. They don't run the ball one time in that drive.
Yeah. Let's see. Yep. Pass. Yep. You're right. Yeah. And there was a sack. There was a
That was at the
flag.
2-yard line. We were at the 2-yard line when that drive started, Max. Or
Ridiculous.
when we got in down there after the Amari Cooper passes. How does that make sense? You don't run the ball one time?
It's insane. I don't get it. I don't get it. Then obviously the Commanders fumble the ball first play of the second half. That was exactly the spark you needed. The Browns get one first down, kick a field goal. Commanders punt with going into the fourth quarter when it's 34-6 and the Browns score. And then obviously the Commanders punt at the end of the game and the Browns don't do anything. So you are putting yourself offensively, you're getting put in decent positions when your defense forces 3-and-outs, they force turnovers. JOK played an unbelievable game again. Like you can see he is fighting for that team.
He's the best player on our team right now,
He
besides
is the best player.
Bojorquez.
Him or Garrett. I think Miles Garrett still looks very good.
And Bojorquez.
Yeah, I will say Corey Bojorquez, there's going to get to a point this year where they're going to be in a close game. It mattered against Jacksonville in week 2. I don't even know what I'm saying. That's the reason they got a safety because he punted down there. It's going to make a difference. He is the best player on the team right now, at least in those phases.
Do you know how good we realistically should be? Because on 2 facets out of the 3 facets of the game that Kevin Stefanski harps on, offense, defense, special teams.
Yeah.
2 out of the 3 are elite. We're not talking about good. Elite. Yeah. Like, that is mind-boggling how much offense dictates this team, because if you were to tell me 2 out of the 3 things that you need in this game is elite, we should be at minimum 3-2.
Shouldn't be 1-4.
Shouldn't be 1-4. And you know what? One note before we get off that play-by-play stuff. At one point in the game, we had 0 first down rushes to the Commanders' 7 first down rushes. That means you're playing from behind the chains 3 out of the 4 down, like every down. It's I'm done with it, bro. Everything can't be on 4. At some collective point, it's got to be more than that.
Yeah, it is a plethora of things. And also, you talk about the first time runs. When you're behind the chains, that makes life so difficult for your offensive line. It's not like the offensive line is being put in ideal positions and they're not balking. They're just not being put in ideal positions. It's the reality of it. And then when you're not in a good position, it's obviously tougher to do your job. They're not blocking then either. But I don't want to excuse that play. You're right. This is an unbelievable plethora group of things that's wrong with the Browns, but they have to do something to figure out what the biggest issue is. Like, do you change play callers? Do you change quarterbacks? They're not going to change quarterbacks, at least right now. But do you do one of those two things? You have a different approach to offensive football. I am fascinated to see if they get Nick Chubb back this week, because I know we talked about it last week saying, like, if they lose, maybe pump the brakes a little bit. I think there's urgency to figure this offense out. And Nick Chubb coming back will help the offense undoubtedly. I think there's urgency to figure it out.
I've said this the past 2 times I've been live. I will be the most livid person in Cleveland if they sit Nicholas Jamal Chubb out this week and we lose and they bring his ass back for the game, for the home opener at 1-5, because that will be the most disrespectful business move I've ever seen in my life, because not a single soul wants to go see that game. And the only reason that place is going to go crazy is because Nicholas Jamal Chubb is going to take a carry. And that would be the most slap in the face thing that I have ever seen. I will be so disgusted. You will hear my mouth if they do that. He better play this week, bro.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't play, we better win.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, defense in Philadelphia has not been good, so they can get him back. They should be able to score some points. Maybe they score 20 points for the first time this season. Who knows?
That was a good one.
How crazy is that? Like that, you look across
$80
the
million.
NFL. You look across the NFL, and again, what highest paid offense in the NFL? If it's not, it's up there.
80
Teams
million.
that did not score 20 this week. The Carolina Panthers with Andy Dalton against one of the best defenses in the NFL. The Miami Dolphins with Tyler Huntley. New England Patriots with Jacoby Brissett. The Jets, again, probably going up against the best defense in the NFL right now in the Minnesota Vikings.
Buffalo barely got there.
The Las Vegas Raiders against, again, a very good defense in Denver. It's not like this Commanders defense is a world beater here. The Los Angeles Rams without their number 1 and number 2 wide receivers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers at home against Dallas Cowboys. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Browns have no business being in an offensive category with them, at least on paper. Obviously, you watch what happens. Might be the worst of all those offenses I just mentioned, but it's unbelievable.
We might be the worst team in the NFL right now. It's not I think it's a legit debate.
Yeah, I was talking about it with my dad. It's probably them, the Dolphins with Huntley, because I think that with Tua they're fine, but Dolphins with Huntley right now, or New England. It's one of those three. I think Carolina's better than them, to be fully honest with you. I do.
With Andy Dalton for sure, because he's not afraid. Like, that's the thing. Like, everybody's afraid. It feels like everybody's just afraid to make the wrong move. Everybody's afraid to make the wrong play. Everybody's overly confident. I talked about this the Baker Mayfield year, and it's the same aura that's radiating through this team. Guys were trying to overcompensate for failures.
Yeah,
they are so. Oh, I got it. I can't drop the ball again this week. Oh, I can't jump off sides this week. I can't not block this week. They are so overthinking it. They're over preparing, over studying, whatever. Over preparing is the wrong phrase to put, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They're overthinking it, and it is resulting in guys dropping wide open touchdown passes, not having 12 men on the field. Like, it's just, and you know what? Your leader is allowing it.
Yep. The first thing I was going to say is last year, offensively, if they dropped the ball, you had Joe Flacco on the sidelines, like been there before, understands how to operate. The second thing you just completely reminded me of is I forgot. How do the 12-man breaking the huddle thing? Oh my God. That is coaching. That's
out of the half.
Like
2 minutes out of that. Break that. I can give it to you off the top of my head because I've been through it so many times.
I'm pulling up the drive right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So pull it up. So they come out of the half. Boom. JOK gets the punch fumble out. We get the ball back.
Washington 30.
The Washington 30. First play is a 9-yard pass to Amari Cooper on the sideline. The second pass is a absolute dart to put us at the 2-yard line. The 2-yard line. The play after that is a false start on Zach Zinter, who had one of the worst offensive line performances throughout the day. His name was in the conversation for all the wrong reasons. Then after that, this is where it gets so much fun. You get sacked. Then after the sack, Jerry Jeudy drops the wide open touchdown in the end zone. And then after that, you have a full play clock. You get a timeout call because you don't have whatever, and then you come out, and then after you come out of that, they have to take a delay of game because of that was after the drop. They have to take the delay of game because they just used the timeout 2 minutes into the freaking first half. This is out of the second half, bro. How does that happen?
I have no idea. It's preparation. It's coaching.
It's coaching.
And you know what? You're not going to fire a head coach 5 weeks through the season, but like,
why not? Tell me why not?
Because I think, and it sounds stupid to say because of the past, but like, you understand what he can do with a lesser team. Now, they got to figure out what the biggest issue is here, because if the biggest issue is Stefanski, the past doesn't matter. But I don't know if we know what the biggest issue is right now. Quarterback play is an enormous issue, but is that really, really, really driving everything right now? We can't sit here and honestly say it's solely Deshaun Watson's fault, because it's not.
It's not. It's
coaching's bad.
The common denominator has always been Stefanski. That's number one. But I think you say, what's the big problem? It's two things into one. And that's that the two most important positions that you need, your head coach and your quarterback, are not compatible.
Yep.
And that is the biggest thing you need. Joe Flacco and Kevin Stefanski were compatible. Pocket passers, like you mentioned. Jacoby Brissett and Joe Flacco and Kevin Stefanski were compatible, which is why we saw a top 10 offense at that one point. When Baker Mayfield, before we tried to get flashy with all of these different tricks and stuff, at one point, I don't even know if they were necessarily fully compatible, because when we thought they were compatible in 2020, we got that full season of offseason and all that good stuff, and it looked like we were pulling teeth every game. Yeah. I go back to that Minnesota Vikings game when everyone was healthy. Jarvis Landry, Odell, Chubb, David Njoku, Baker Mayfield. Everybody's out on the field. You score 14 points.
Insane.
The common denominator is Stefanski, but the problem is the compatibility with your quarterback and your coach.
Yep. I think that is the perfect way to finish this, because if they're not compatible, something has to change. Is it coaching? Is it the play caller? Or is it the quarterback? We know it's not going to be the quarterback anytime soon, at least. Near future. We'll see about a couple weeks from now. But coaching, play calling, that change, it has to be the next logical step, right?
It has to be this week. That's why I'm waiting. That's why I woke up this morning. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's Black Monday. Like something is going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we cannot. I just don't see a world where we go into this week without a change. Can you see a world where we do that? Because if we do, the world that I see, if we do that, is Browns is the Browns. I see 4-12.
I think it's good. I think they're going to go into the game without a change. I don't think they're going to make a change. I don't know why. Outside looking in, why the hell are you doing that? I think, honestly, the change will be bringing Nick Chubb in, and if they give that this week, and if he gets 10-ish touches, you're like, okay, well, we got our best offensive player back.
How'd that work out for you bringing David Njoku back this week? That change work? Oh, wait, let's try it one more time just because Nick Chubb is like, what? Like, oh my God, Max. I cannot believe we were 1-4. Like, this just doesn't feel real. I never thought I'd have this conversation with you. I didn't know you in the dark days. No. I've only known you in this era.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like we would have it. Like, 4-12 has been my life forever. I know you're a Giants fan. I know you're freshly new to the Browns world, but 4-12 has been my life. I can't go back to 4-12, bro.
They're better. They are. I would say they're a better team than 4-12. Anytime you have 2 of the 3 phases of the game that are that good, you are a better team than whatever they're at, 1-4, whatever they're at now. But
not what our record.
The record's not going to say that, and we got to wait to see what happens when Chubb is back, because I do think that has that big of an impact on the offense. But I will say, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. The Cleveland Browns are living in insanity right now.
Yeah. So I mean, before we get out, I just want you to give me 4 wins. Eagles.
Let's see. Brown schedule. I do think they beat LA. I think they will be able to control the line of scrimmage against LA, which is something that I don't think they can do against a lot of teams. So I think they can do that.
Okay, so you got the Chargers.
Chargers, Denver,
Are we
maybe that's on the road in prime time.
That's after being on prime time the week before.
Yeah, true. That is a mini buy though, so I do like that I do like that. They coming off of their actual buy against the Saints. I think the Saints are good. Like I don't know when you guys will be listening to this episode. Like one of my 3 upset picks of the week. I think the Saints can beat the Chiefs. I think they will. Like I think they're good.
Where there's
last
4
one
wins
probably
right now? The Dolphins.
Probably it's got to be Pittsburgh. But even then, like I think this Dolphins team with Tua is good. Like I think they can compete with anybody because they can score like that and they can score on anyone. But it's got to be Denver, LA, Pittsburgh. If I had to give you my 3 most confident wins now moving forward, probably those 3. Maybe at home against Cincy, but then again, like you can't score to keep up with Cincy. You either need an impressive defensive performance or your best offensive performance of the year. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm looking at it, bro, and the Steelers are the Steelers, bro. They always play us differently, and
yeah.
I want to sit here and say we can pull one of those out. I want to sit here and say we sweep the Bengals like we always do, but we can't put up 20 freaking points and Joe Burrow's throwing for 5 touchdowns and losing. No. Yeah. He might put up 50 on us. The Bengals might realistically, like if we look like trash, if we think we can go 7-8 possessions where we go 2 yards for a 30, oh my gosh, they're going to put up 50 points on us.
Yep.
You can stamp it now.
Another team that's way better than their record suggests. Joe, like if the Bengals were 3-2, Joe Burrow would be outside of Jaden Daniels at the top of MVP conversations. Like he looks that good. But another team again, offensively, that's just putting the hammer down better than their record suggests. But like this is going to be a ridiculous next month. Like on the road at Philly, like I am very skeptical of that Eagles defense. I don't see a world they win that game. Like there's almost no way in my mind because of how good Philly is on the defensive front and what they can do offensively. They're probably going to get A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith back, both too, coming off of a bye against the Browns. Like how the hell do you win that game? I do think there's a chance they can beat Cincy at home. They're not going to beat the Ravens October 27th. And all of a sudden you're in November and you could be what? 1-7 or 2-6. I don't want to say the season's over now after 5 weeks, but if you're 1-7 or 2-6, like your back it is almost over. Your back is against the wall.
You know why we win the Eagles? Because you just said it. Because 1, 2, 3 weeks ago, we said the same exact thing in the reverse. We said there was no way that the Giants were beating us. Yeah. There was absolutely no way. This is the only reason. That's the you want to talk about Zay optimistic? That's the only optimism I can give you right now. The only reason why we gonna win is because we're not supposed to win. Exactly. It's because there's no chance in hell we're supposed to beat the Eagles.
And if that's the reality of the Browns this year, man, it's a sad, sad thing. But we appreciate you guys hopping on. We appreciate you venting and listening with us. Obviously, let us know in the comments how you guys are feeling, what your 2 cents are about that game, and if you want to suggest any moves moving forward, because as much as we want to talk about it, we got no clue. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't even know what they should do. We don't know what the biggest issue is. So we wait to see. Zay, any final words before we sign off?
Stay off social media for a day. Give your mind a break. Because I retweeted I tweeted the Hard Knocks will be here in December. So prepare yourselves of how much mayhem it really can be. But hey, we got one more away game, and we'll see y'all down there in the Muni lot. So be ready and or don't be there. It doesn't matter. We're trash right now anyway. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go.
All right, guys, we appreciate you hopping on. We will see you next time.